Hello, I'm Jeb Joseph. I'm going to be talking about my discussions for The Tale of Two Schools, and notes from the field and the Anna Devere Smith. I don't remember what the show was called, but it was about her family past. And in the Tale of Two Schools, it takes place in South Bronx. It's between two schools, University Heights High School, which is the poorer high school, and the Ethical Culture School, which is the rich school. Now, between the schools, they started having these get-togethers, meetups, where students would discuss social issues, from gun violence to family issues to money to all sorts of different things in between. And they had students from each school read some letters that they wrote that were very short. They range from suicide to gun violence to domestic violence, and to even the first time somebody getting drunk, to their first love that they had, to the love of sports. Now, on to Anna Devere Smith and her past. This one was discussed about her grandparents, and that she only knew up to her grandparents, and that she had no idea anything past that. Well, she found out about Basil Biggs, who was her great grandparents, and that her whole family was free from 12 years after the U.S. became the U.S. So for 12 years her family were slaves, and then they became free after that. So in 1788, they were free. Her whole family was free from that point on. But going back to Basil Biggs, he was living in Pennsylvania at the time. He during the Civil War, when the Battle of Gettysburg came on, his family's farm was invaded, and he had to leave. So when he left, he came back. His whole family's farm was destroyed. Now he got hired to do the job of exhuming all the Union soldiers and reburying them. And with the money he got paid from that, he went and bought a new farm. And actually, apparently, he owned the largest farm in Pennsylvania for any black person to own, and it was the largest one. And he ran apparently a very successful vet clinic, and he was a very good doctor. Now on to the next thing, which was Anna Devere Smith's notes from the field. Now, in this, she discussed many of people's stories. The first one she talks about is Freddie Gray, who died in Baltimore. Police custody. He was arrested for having a knife on him. He was then put in a paddy wagon and given a rough ride. I've heard that term because of The Shield, which was a TV show about corrupt cops, so I knew that before this whole incident started. It wasn't like me learning something new, but apparently it's when they throw you into the back of a police van and you're handcuffed, but they don't strap you in, so you can't stop yourself from falling all over the place when they do stops and all sorts of stuff, and or when they speed up. The other one of the other important stories from her one-woman show was Shakira and Naya, two girls from South Carolina who were assaulted by their school resource officer. Shakira was she apparently had her phone out, and this was a no phone policy. I remember seeing this video. This was when I was a second year into college, and I was working majority of the time. I was only a part-time student, but I remember seeing the video of her getting grabbed and thrown from her desk, and I didn't know about Naya, because I didn't read into it that much, because I was just busy with life. and just hearing about that story was insane. Uh, so glad the officer was fired. Then the next one, she talked about Taos Proctor, who was a Native American who spent majority of his life in prison. I actually believe that this story was put in there in her act just so that everything wasn't so sad, and that it wasn't all just doom and gloom a bit. But because his life turned out to be okay, yeah, he went through the prison system and he probably has some trauma because of that. But again, he turned his life around and was actually able to be good. And then she ended her play with an interview with John Lewis, who marched with MLK, and he received a badge from a sheriff in, I think, Montgomery, Alabama. That was when they had the huge brawl. Everybody's seen the footage of it. They had fire hoses and all that stuff. He asked for forgiveness because those weren't the sheriffs that he would want in his police precinct. And then he also got an apology from a KKK member who assaulted him and apologized to him in the 60s. Anna's one-person poem is great. I know I don't really fully align with her politically, but I will say her just speaking and everything. I've seen who she is as an actress. I've seen her on Nurse Jackie, but this was the first time didn't even know about she did these types of plays, and actually I think I'm gonna actually look up some more and watch them because it was actually really entertaining. But alongside that, I believe Anna started with one of the hardest stories, which was Freddie Gray's, because I also think I'm pretty sure that was right around either a year before or like a few months before she released this. And then I also think the other one that was pretty hard to discuss was Tupac's, which I think, or not Tupac's, Dylan Roof's story. The one where he went and shot a whole bunch of churchgoers. I think that was very hard to get through, and I really got the empathy from that and how she was able to. I didn't understand what the everyday life performance was really going to be about until I actually saw her do this, where she was imitating people she had interviewed, and I was actually surprised. It makes me actually now, after watching this, feel a little bit more comfortable about watching this. Then, one second. And then she discussed, which I think was a little, to make everybody feel a little bit happier and all that stuff, was she talked about Tupac's poem about the rose growing up through the crack and how it survived and all that stuff. And I also think Taos Proctor was another thing to make people feel happy, because you can't just talk doom and gloom all the time, or it's going to be very sad. It's like, I don't remember what it was called, but I know the guy, Michael Dowd, or not Michael Dowd, something else. It was this movie about peak oil, and it's this guy who's just smoking a cigarette the whole time talking about it. And I saw an interview about, in the interview he goes, now I'm going to talk about the positives of the world and stuff like that, because he goes, you can't just talk doom and gloom all the time, or the whole world looks just doom and gloom. You have to be positive. And I think she did that too. She added those stories to make people feel positive. I believe that The Tale of Two Schools was more of a story than a performance, in my opinion. Yes, they did do performances, giving talking about the letters and all that stuff, but it was more, in the interviews they had with students, it was more about who people were and all that stuff, and nothing really about performing, in my opinion. Why is that? Sorry. Because of how she did the performance with the preacher at giving the speech at Freddie Gray's funeral, I looked into that and found it to be pretty spot on, which made me feel a little bit better about doing my everyday life performance, because it kind of made me go, because I thought she was just acting up it, ad-libbing and exaggerating for the audience, but nope, after watching that, so it made me go, okay, so just follow along basically how your partner performs. And then the only ethical thing I really had was from her was, on the off chance, I don't know all the information that she gave, but I know that, like in the case of Mike Brown, the whole hands up, don't shoot was apparently a lie from one of the witnesses. Again, I still don't know if that's even true or not, but I know that's what they said. And then the biggest thing I thought got from this that connected to me about was how she conveyed empathy, and that's how it made, again, helped me figure out what I need to do for my everyday life performance. The empathy connection, she was able to portray that really well and make the whole audience, in my opinion, and including me, feel empathy for everybody who she was talking about, and also the students from the Tale of the Two Cities, and that did give me empathy, because again, I went to public school for majority of my life until 5th grade, and then I went to private school, so I got both experiences, and also I had family who had went to both public and private school for their whole life. So yeah, again, that's another relation I felt from that. And that's it. That's my whole discussion. Thanks. I hope this was good.